Hello, I'm your host Jim McLean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NVTV. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Top Gun Maverick, which is released this week, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is out in cinemas now. Our pick of the streams is the found footage phenomenon, the untold story of a global sensation, which is available now on Shudder. And our DVD of the week is Wild Things. So that's what we've lined up for you this week, and joining me here in the studio is our very own deputy editor, one half of BanterFlix's Sleuth Sisters, Joe McElroy. Hello to you, Joe.
Good evening, Jim.
Joe, we have a packed show. We're going to try and cram 4 movies into this week's show. We usually try and do 3, but we've got a big release, and then we've got a film that we want to talk about. So we're going to try and squeeze in as much, but we still have to talk about a bit of movie news. So that's where we'll start this week's show. So, Joe, what's caught your attention this week in the world of cinema?
Well, actually, lately there's been a lot of trailers released. In the last few days, we've had the trailer to the next Mission Impossible film, well, part 1 of 2 of the last 2 Mission Impossible films. We've also had the latest trailer for Thor, Love and Thunder, and the Russo brothers' Netflix film, The Grey Man. But out of the 3, the one that caught my eye the most was for Mission Impossible 7. I'm just a sucker for that franchise. Yeah,
we're going to be talking about a Tom Cruise movie this week anyway. We can't have 2 Tom Cruise movies in one year, and this just caught my attention straight away. I'm very excited about this, and I know we're going to be talking about Top Gun. We got to see this in the IMAX thanks to Paramount, and this is a film already I can see from just, I shudder to think about it. Watching this on my phone, the trailer, I can't wait to see that film on the IMAX screen. Anybody watching, if you're watching, seek the trailer out and just imagine that final sequence and just think what it's going to look like on an IMAX screen. That must be worth your cinema ticket alone.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You can sort of maybe put like a shoebox over your head, cut out your phone, slip it in. It's as close as you're going to get to IMAX for a while with the trailer. But no, it looks fantastic. Like, it's going back to the things that make the film series so great. Practical stunts that just beggar belief, especially when you think, it's Tom Cruise, one of the biggest, film stars of all time, and he's just in his 50s going, I think I'm going to jump off this bridge here on a motorbike, or I'm going to crash a train off a bridge and stuff like that there. And as well as that, it looks like it's kind of going to tie back to the original, because I think the guy from the original, Kitterman, he makes an appearance in it. So yeah, it's looking good. It doesn't tell you a lot, but that's what the best trailers do. They just entice you what the film's going to have to offer rather than what it's about. Yeah, and I know we're going to have to move on because we're going to try and squeeze 4 movies in, but think of Tom Cruise, we think of the Mission Impossible stuff, think of what we've went through with COVID. Tom lost his rag quite famously on set. This trailer just looks like it's going to be worth all that effort, worth the wait. I know we're a movie review show, we can't review it till it's out, but from first impression, this looks like it's going to be worth all that stress that Tom went through. What do you think? Absolutely, yeah. I remember listening to that audio footage, and it was in the midst of the pandemic, and I just thought he really, not just really cares about this film, because when he was talking about, films in general, if this set shuts down, then it has the knock-on effect for Cruise and that there. So it is something he's really invested in and he really cares about, and it actually shows through that trailer, and I'm really excited to see it.
Yes, now, from one movie that Tom Cruise is heavily invested in to another, let's move on to this week's big release.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking. Today's exercise is dogfighting.
2 versus 1? Hey, he's got to be kidding. What the hell?
So that's a look at Top Gun Maverick. We have Tom Cruise, he's back. Maverick's back. 30 years after the events of the first film. Joe, I don't really know if we need to set too much up. Maverick's been brought back to Top Gun. He has to train the best of the best for a mission impossible, some might say. But we got to see this in the IMAX screen before its general release. What do you think?
It's an absolutely outstanding film in terms of what a summer blockbuster should be. It is the quintessential blockbuster. It ticks every box of what you'd expect these sorts of films to be. Seeing it in IMAX, I was just absolutely blown away by it. Just from the very start when the engines roar of the F-18s, and then you have Danger Zone playing at the same time. It just, at that moment, I had a big grin on my face, and I was like, I'm hooked in. I'm ready for this. Because prior to it, I did rewatch the original. I thought, it's good. It sort of stands up in certain areas and it doesn't in others. But to be honest, the sequel blows it out of the park. It improves on every aspect on the original. Tom Cruise just seamlessly slips back into his role as Maverick, the lovable rogue who, doesn't know when to stop, who always has to push himself to the limit. The new cast of characters fit in quite well. The young Top Gun cadets that he's training. Jennifer Connelly's a very welcome addition as the love interest. So it's not just a love interest, she's every bit a match for Maverick's charms. She doesn't instantly fall for them, she challenges them. But the real start of the show is the actual aerial combat scenes. They're just breathtaking to watch anytime they appear on screen. Especially in the third act, where it's probably one of the best third acts in an action film since Mission Impossible Fallout. I just absolutely love this film.
Yeah, I thought this was something special, and I've always been a little bit worried because I'm a huge Tony Scott fan. Tony Scott directed the original, he's passed away, and then I thought, well, that's the Top Gun sequel gone. Tom Cruise has kept the candle burning. He has delivered something. He's a producer here as well, and like we mentioned with Mission Impossible, it's very much a labour of love, a project that he has driven. And when we hear interviews with cast members, they all talk about his work ethic, his drive to create something that has to be something special on the big screen. And watching it at the IMAX, every penny that has been invested financially, every ounce of effort that has went to is there on screen. You've mentioned visually it's stunning. I am intrigued to see what it will look like on a standard cinema screen. Alan Meeben was there, Alan Belfast, another blogger, he's been on the show. He's works with Slugger as well. And he made the point he would like to watch it. So Tom's got my money again. I'm gonna go see it probably in the IMAX again, and then I'm probably gonna wanna watch it on a normal screen, on a normal cinema screen, just to see what that experience is like, because it's shot with IMAX cameras, and you can see, probably for me, not since we've seen some of the work by Chris Nolan, Interstellar, Inception, Tenet, where you've seen something and somebody working with what they can do with the IMAX camera. The fight sequences and the aerial sequences are just stunning. They are worth the admission alone. And I think, as a plain and simple, narratively, it's a better film. When we look back, Top Gun, it's a bit vacuous. It's a bit style over substance, but what substance? What substance? And it's gorgeous Tom. He's grown into his looks. And fair play to him, for a man his age, I know I sound obsessed with it. I'm 40 this year. I don't think no one would want to see it. I don't think I would be getting my tops off. I don't think I'd be getting the taps off on the beach. Tom, no bother. It's a difficult one for me this week because there's another film we're going to be talking about when we get to the film of the week. But I think this is, as you've mentioned, Joe, this is just a summer blockbuster as the way it should be. And I think with that, we've been largely positive. I think we should move on to another film. It's out in cinemas now. Let's move on to talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mrs. Wang.
Mrs. Wang, are you with us?
I am paying attention.
Now, you may only see a pile of receipts, but I see a story. I can see where this story is going. It does not look good.
What's happening?
another version of I'm from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns. You can access all of their memories, their emotions, even their skills. There's a great evil spreading throughout the many verses. And you may be our only chance of stopping it.
So that's a look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. We got a chance to talk about this. We had to talk about it this week. You've seen this a couple of days ago. I've literally come from the cinema from watching this film straight to this. So my mind is probably in the multiverse right now and trying to comprehend, what's going on and just my thoughts. So Joe, start the ball rolling. I don't really know if we need to set up too much. You can feel free to try and set up as much as you want, but give our viewers a little taste on what you thought of the film.
Well, that's the thing. It's one of those films where the less you know, the better. But in terms of basic story, it's about a Chinese immigrant who is having problems with not just her business, but her relationship. And it all comes to a head when there's tax problems and she's at the tax office. But that just opens a whole new door to multiple universes. And I think that's probably where I'm going to leave it as is, because I don't want to give too much away.
Okay, what do you think?
I loved it. No, there's no two ways about it. Overall, I think it's an acquired taste. Like, it's not going to be for everyone, but you can tell, the filmmakers are completely honest with what they're sort of delivering to you and what's being presented by them. This is the film they definitely want to make. It doesn't seem like there's any interference of any kind. But in terms of the actual story and the film itself, it's, visually dazzling, while when things jump between different multiverses, the styles change as well. Like, at one point it's shot like a kung fu film, and other times it's a bit like In the Mood for Love and stuff like that. There's a lot of film influences, tied in within the different multiverses. But the thing that really gets you is the core story, and the real heart of it's the journey that Michelle Yeoh's character is going through. There's a lot of existential themes, even a few nihilistic aspects to it. But again, I don't want to delve into them too much, because the more you do that, the more you sort of ruin the film. But it's a film with a lot of heart. There's quite a bit of humour, great action in it. It's one of those films that has a bit of everything for everyone, almost as the title suggests. But yeah, the cast in general are fantastic. There's like Jamie Lee Curtis, James Wong, and Ki Hye Kwan, I think is his name pronounced. He's been out of acting since, one of his last roles was as in the likes of The Goonies and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but it doesn't really show. He's a fantastic, he delivers a fantastic performance in it. But yeah, overall, it's a big thumbs up from me. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, look, you said this is an acquired taste. I think this is right up my street. I quite simply adored this film. And I know I've only come out of the screening, but sometimes a film just hits you. And I can't remember the last time, but probably thinking right now, something like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, when a film just hits you and you just think it's as close to cinematic perfection for you. Other people might think it's Marmite, but for me, I thought this was as close to cinematic perfection. This is from the directorial duo behind Swiss Army Man, which was a film, I love a lot of things about it. I don't love as much as others do, but it's a film filled with so much heart. And here we see a film that, despite all its kind of madness, on-screen madness that we have, it unashamedly wears its heart on its sleeve, and never, without going into spoilers, but never have the image of two rocks chasing each other reduced me to tears. And I say this every so often in the show, regular viewers will know I cry at the drop of a hat. I sobbed properly through quite a bit of this film's final act. I thought it was beautiful. Michelle Yeoh, I'm a big fan anyway, and I know we run a Kung Fu movie club, and she's just fantastic. visual performer. She's so physical in what she does, but then from her lineage and what she's come through and what she's worked with on screen, you would expect that from her. All cast all round. Jamie Lee Curtis is there. James Wong, as you've mentioned. It's just an absolutely fantastic piece of film and a reminder for me of everything I loved about cinema, being in a darkened room on a big screen, just like with Top Gun Maverick, watching a film with a group of people I will never know and sharing that experience, and watching it today in the cinema here in Belfast, and just, I mean, my phone, everything was there. I was never going to be distracted from this film. I thought it was stunning. So yeah, it's a definite thumbs up for me in that film, and that's why I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about it. But it does make my decision for Film of the Week very, very hard at the end of the show. But with that, let's move away from the big screen and let's move to the digital realm.
It's subversive. Anything can happen.
It feels like you're watching real people in real situations.
We're going to find the lead's devil.
Everybody is on the edge of their seats.
This film's one of the first that really involved the camera.
Why do you still have this stupid thing? Just put it down.
Now we live in a world that is found footage.
This kind of disinformation campaign, we were definitely tapping into that stuff when we were coming up with the idea for Blair Witch.
As technology advanced, it became cheaper and more people could make these things.
There's a spaceship or something outside!
What if I took the alien abduction experience and folded that into a home video?
So that's a look at the found footage phenomenon. It's out on Shudder now. This is the first time we've actually talked about Shudder, and you are a big devotee of Shudder. You, like me, like your horror films. I just have a bit of kind of love-hate relationship with Shudder's output, but I think it's long overdue that we talk about a film that's available on their service. So it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a documentary that looks back at the history of the found footage genre and talks about its impact upon cinema. So what do you think?
Shudder can be a streaming service that's hit and miss, especially for even with horror fans, you know, if you're invested in it. But the one thing they've really done well, for me anyway, is their documentary output. You know, they've had Horror Noir, which is about, you know, the history of black people in horror films. There was a great one about folk horror. I can't remember its full title because it's quite a lengthy title, but it's fantastic. And now this has come along about another subgenre, the found footage. I'm not usually a big fan of found footage films. It's one of those, it's again, talking about acquired tastes. It's one of those things, if it's done right, I love it, but if it's poor, it's really poor. And with this film, it's really interesting and fascinating to see, you know, its origins from as far back as, well, not even just Cannibal Holocaust, but even before that, and how, you know, they talk about how even the novel Dracula is potentially one of the first found footage things, since it's a documented tale, and it goes right up to last year's Host, which, you know, utilised it almost to perfection. The idea of found footage through a Zoom call, but for me, it's really interesting. But my sort of gripe with it is it's a bit too fast in terms of it moves through everything, and it tries to fit it all within 1 hour and 40 minutes instead of honing in on specific areas. But having said that, you know, I was really interested in you know, why people find the genre interesting, and, you know, why it works for some people and stuff like that, like through the various talking heads that they have on the film, you know, from the makers of Paranormal Activity to, like I say, Cannibal Holocaust, and even the QFT makes an appearance when Ashlyn Clark talks about her film and the found footage movement in general. But, you know, it's a fairly interesting documentary, and anyone who's sort of interested in that area, it's, you know, a must-see for them.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the found footage genre, because like you, and they do touch on this in the documentary, you have to find yourself, why are you filming this? How are you getting this footage? And the bigger question I often find myself asking myself in a found footage movie, where is the soundtrack coming from? And where is this coming? And those are niggly things. And these are addressed. I will say I did find the documentary a little bit dry. Unlike you, I thought it was a little bit too long. I think but coming back to what you said, I think it paints rather broad strokes. It doesn't try to get into things. So I agree with you and disagree at the same time. You know, it's almost going into a multiverse situation there, Joe. But I think it's a perfectly serviceable documentary. Yes, what most of these documentaries end up making you do is getting out your pen and say, right, gotta watch that, or a checklist, and you go, yeah, I've seen that, I've seen the McPherson tapes, all that kind of stuff. I've seen The Last Broadcast, I love that. And there's stuff like Lake Mungo, which is very fleetingly mentioned. But yeah, there's some very good found footage movies. There's some very iconic ones. I come back to my point, I know I'm repeating myself. It's a serviceable documentary, but I will repeat the point I made last week when we talked about Everything or Nothing, because we've kind of made this decision we want to focus on a few documentaries. We're going to be coming up to Docs Ireland soon, so we need to showcase that strand of cinema. If you're not interested in any of this, well, why would you be watching it in the first place? But if you're not interested in horror, or if you're not interested in the found footage genre, I don't think it does enough to draw you in. I think Everything or Nothing, which we talked about last week, did just enough to draw non-Bond fans in. It's an acquired taste. If you're not interested in these things, I don't think you'll find much there. But like you and me, you do have an interest in horror, you like the genre, you're interested in kind of looking at all its kind of little quirks and differences. This is a perfectly good documentary to watch, but I just didn't love it. But look, with that, let's move on and wrap up this week's show with our DVD of the week.
Welcome to the town of Blue Bay.
Hi, Mr. Lombardo.
Hey, girls.
So where's your hose, Mr. Lombardo?
Where innocence can seduce.
He started rubbing my shoulders.
Accusations can destroy.
I'm innocent.
You guys do sex crimes, right?
When was this that Sam Lombardo gave you the ride?
Did Sam Lombardo rape you?
Yeah, okay, he did. He pushed me to the floor.
So that's a look at Wild Things. It's getting a lovely new re-release in DVD and Blu-ray. Joe, do you want to set this up for our viewers? And first thing I'm going to ask you, had you seen this before you watched it?
No, I've never seen it before. But the film itself is about a student guidance counsellor in a high school in America who is accused of sexual assault on 2 of the students in the school. It leads to the court case surrounding the whole thing, and he eventually gets off with it, but it's not the end of the story, as there's a lot of duplicity and a lot of twists and turns along the way, but I'll say no more because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, it's better not to spoil too much. I remember watching this when I was much younger. As I said earlier on, I'm nearly 40, and when I watched it the first time, I probably didn't watch it for all the right reasons, I'll be honest, and I was intrigued by it. I am in my elder years, which is a weird thing to say. I'm not geriatric just yet, but as I get older, I find myself fascinated by the erotic thriller genre, because I think it's a genre of cinema that has very interesting things to say about female betrayal, male betrayal. And whilst this film is a bit trashy, let's be honest, it's knowingly trashy. It's trying to be that way. It's evoking memories of stuff like Body Heat and classic femme fatales. I really like it. I enjoy it for all the sleazy fun that it is. It's hot. You can feel the kind of heat you can feel the heat on screen, and the sweat. You can see the sweat on screen. I like it. I don't love it, and I think maybe looking back at now in 2022 eyes, there is issues there. There's problems there, but there's also quite clever things that it was doing for a film that was released back in the 90s. But what did you think?
Well, yeah, I agree with you on that there. It's total trash, but in a good way. You know, it's really enjoyable and fun in that respect, but it kind of comes across as basically Basic Instinct for the Scream generation. You know, if you want to sort of sum it up for viewers. Like you know, I did enjoy it. It does have a lot of problems, mind you, but in general, I just loved the way there was constant twists and turns. Like I haven't seen a film with so many twists in my whole life, and it's funny how each resolve and then they go back to sort of explain each of the twists. The cast's quite good. You've got Matt Dillon there, along with Denise Richards and Neve Campbell, and Kevin Bacon and Bill Murray. The thing is, they all buy into it and they know what they're sort of doing. So, you know, that's sort of what makes it as entertaining as it is, because they basically bought in the idea. It's like, yeah, we know it's a trashy film, but we're going along with it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And like you said, you can sort of feel that heat where it's set down in Florida. It's very tactile in that way, and I enjoyed it for what it was. But it's not the best film in the world, but it's enjoyable all the same.
Yeah, it's not the best film in the world. I think we can accept that. I am intrigued by the fact you pointed out. I think there's 3 sequels to this that I'm not really that tempted to go out and seek out. This might be an American Psycho 2 kind of sequel, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, coming back to something you mentioned, the only thing that does take me out of the film is probably Bill Murray. And it's probably because Bill Murray's there doing Bill Murray's classic shtick. And it's not a bad thing. I think it just ultimately it does fit, but it also doesn't fit if that doesn't make sense. It's kind of going into multiverse territory there again. I think I'm just obsessed with it this week. But that is my only niggle. Watching it now, I think that does feel a little bit out of place. But I still enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, it's a perfectly serviceable film. If you're going to the good old days of going to your local video shop, picking up something, you can't rent anything anymore, like that day, the good old days of Extravision, I don't think you'd be too disappointed if you threw this on.
No, I completely agree with you. It's just, it is sort of perfect sort of Friday night sort of, trash just to throw on and have a laugh with.
Yes, it is indeed a good laugh, and you will not be disappointed, but it's not perfect. So that brings us to the most important part of the show. Okay, so Joe, it's the most important part of the show. It's the film of the week. So we have discussed 4 movies. Normally we struggle to get through 3. This week our poor editors had to watch us try to get through 4 films. So what of the 4 films that we have discussed this evening, what would you say would be the one film above all else that you would ask them to seek out? And the most important thing is, why?
All right, this is Sophie's choice here this week. It's, for me, there's 2 leading contenders here. There's Everything Everywhere All at Once, and there's Top Gun Maverick. The way that you can sort of look at it is twofold. It's like, do you want a big summer blockbuster cinematic experience with Top Gun Maverick, or do you want a real heartfelt tale that deserves to be seen on the big screen? And if I'm going by, objectively, I would go with Everything Everywhere All at Once, because like I said, for all the reasons I listed earlier, it's just an amalgamation of different genres. And in a way, in that respect, it makes it a bit of a love letter to cinema as well. In the way that it has a bit of everything for everyone, that's what would maybe make me lean towards it a bit more, because, it gives audiences whatever they want. But at the same time, I think in terms of what a mainstream audience would want, I would have to go with Top Gun Maverick. And after seeing it in IMAX, I probably am going to lean towards Top Gun Maverick. It's my film of the week.
Okay, so it means that it's interesting for the viewers, because I think I played my cards quite early in this episode. I have to go for Everything Everywhere All at Once, just because, I'll be honest, there is a moment, I've already talked about a sequence where I cried in that film, but there's a sequence that does a heavy nod to a Pixar movie. And it's the moment where I was watching that film, and I literally sat there and said to myself, this film has my heart. I love this film. And I will say it now, I know it's only May, by the end of this year, if Everything Everywhere All at Once is not, I'll play it safe a bit, if it's not in my top 3, it has been a very good year for cinema. I will also say that Top Gun Maverick will more than likely be up there, because it's perfect. My get out of jail card is go see both. So yeah, I'm the host, I can do these things. Go see both, but if you just want to go to your local multiplex, support your cinema, maybe it doesn't have an IMAX screen, go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. But if you're going to make a treat, if you haven't been to the cinema for a while, and funds are tight, we are living in a cost of living crisis, if you are prepared, if you have the time, and you can spend that little bit extra and go to the IMAX screen, you will not be disappointed by watching Top Gun Maverick on that screen, because it is a thing of beauty on an IMAX screen. But if you don't have it, I don't know, because I don't know what it's going to, I genuinely don't know what Top Gun Maverick will look like on a standard cinema screen, but Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've seen it literally half an hour ago. I cannot wait to watch it again. And I know I'm going to go see Top Gun Maverick again, but I stated my cards, I put them out there. My film of the week is Everything Everywhere All at Once. we just simply can't agree every week, Joe. That's the democracy we live in. But look, the less said about that, the better. So we shall move on and wrap up this week's show. So all that is left for me to do now is thank you, Joe. So thank you very much for giving up your time this evening.
No, thank you, Jim.
And thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.